Good morning and welcome to Round the Globe on Aneke TV. First, the headlines. Israeli cabinet ratifies Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal with Hamas. ECOWAS faces staff shortage after three nations exit. Deadly fever outbreak kills 17 in Senegal. Somalia adopts Swahili to strengthen East African ties. President Tinubu clears 959 for national honors. 175 inmates across the country granted prerogative of mercy by the president. I am Aneke. Now the news in details. Israel's government has approved an agreement brokered by the U.S. that paves the way for a ceasefire in the Gaza war and the return of all remaining hostages held by the Hamas. Cabinet ministers approved the agreement in the early hours of today, just hours after both President Donald Trump and senior Hamas negotiator Khalil al-Halal declared the war in Gaza over. Mr. Trump has said the Israeli hostages will be released on either Monday or Tuesday, followed by the release of around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. Meanwhile, the U.S. president has said he will travel to the Middle East this weekend for the signing of the agreement. The deal is expected to be signed in Egypt and has been invited to address Israel's parliament. Moving on, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is facing a major staffing crisis following the withdrawal of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso. At an extraordinary meeting of the Council of Ministers in Abuja, ECOWAS Commission President Omar Touré said the bloc is struggling with stalled recruitment, an aging workforce and a shortage of qualified staff after the exit of the three countries. Mr. Touré noted that recruitment delays and manual application processes have hampered efficiency, urging member states to help redistribute vacant positions without sacrificing competence. Still in Africa, at least 17 people have died in Senegal's worst Rift Valley fever (RVF) outbreak in decades, health officials confirmed. The country has recorded 119 cases, mostly in the livestock-heavy northern region, raising fears of wider spread. According to the Health Ministry's Dr. Boli Diop, the outbreak declared on September 21 has worsened by low awareness, weak surveillance and late detection. Experts from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, link the resurgence of RVF and similar diseases to climate change and extreme weather patterns that create ideal breeding conditions for mosquitoes. The last major epidemic in 1987 to 1988 killed more than 200 people in Senegal and Mauritania. The World Health Organization warns that while most human infections are mild, severe cases can cause blindness or fatal hemorrhagic fever with up to 50% mortality. Also in Africa, Somalia is set to introduce Swahili into its national curriculum to deepen integration with the East African Community, EAC. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud announced at the ongoing EAC summit in Mogadishu. Currently, English is the main language of instruction in secondary schools, while Arabic serves as the compulsory second language. The new policy will see Swahili taught from schools to universities, with the president urging institutions, especially Somali National University, to promote its use. The country's education minister, Mr. Farah Sheikh Abdul Qadir, said the government hopes Swahili will soon become a language of communication, trade and learning. Swahili is already spoken along Somalia's southern coast and among citizens returning from Kenya, where they picked it up as refugees. The presence of African Union troops, who commonly use Swahili, has also boosted its spread. With over 200 million speakers, Swahili ranks amongst the world's top 10 most spoken languages, a move that could mark Somalia's deeper reintegration into East Africa after decades of conflict. This news broadcast is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Remember, you can follow us on all social media feeds on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. Now, a quick reminder of major developments in the news. Israeli cabinet ratifies Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal with Hamas. ECOWAS faces staff shortage after three nations exit. Deadly fever outbreak kills 17 in Senegal. Somalia adopts Swahili to strengthen East African ties. Coming up shortly, President Tinubu clears 959 for national honors. 175 inmates across the country granted prerogative of mercy by the president. Please stay with us.
Hello, I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obobina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
You're still watching Around the Globe on Aneke TV. Now bring you stories from Nigeria. The National Council of State has approved the appointment of Professor Joash Ojo Amupiton, SAN, as the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, following the completion of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu's 10-year tenure. President Bola Tinubu presented Amupiton's nomination at Thursday's council meeting in Abuja, where members unanimously endorsed him. Tinubu noted that the 58-year-old law professor from Kogi State is the first person from the North Central region to head the commission. Amopiton, a professor of law and deputy vice-chancellor administration at the University of Lagos, specializes in company law, corporate governance and evidence law. He became a senior advocate of Nigeria in 2014. His name will now be forwarded to the Senate for confirmation in line with constitutional requirements. Questions have been raised as President Bola Tinubu has approved the conferment of national honors on 959 Nigerians and friends of the country. The decision was announced after the meeting of the Council of State held at the Presidential Villa Abuja. Addressing State House correspondents after the meeting, the Permanent Secretary, Cabinet Affairs Office, Dr. Emanso Umobong, said the current Honors Committee, reconstituted in August 2021 under the chairmanship of Justice C.D. Bach, screened over 5,000 applications before recommending 824 recipients for the 2024-2025 National Honors and 135 for Special Presidential Awards, bringing the total to 959 honorees. Dr. Umobong added that the Tinubu administration had, in the spirit of inclusive national recognition, already honored several distinguished Nigerians and friends of Nigeria over the past year. Mass mercy, as President Bola Tinubu has granted presidential pardon to Herbert Macaulay, retired Major General Maman Vatsa, and Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe among 175 beneficiaries, approved by the National Council of State in Abuja on Thursday. General Vatsa is executed for treason in 1986, and Macaulay, twice jailed by colonial authorities, received posthumous clemency alongside the Ogoni Nine, including Ken Saro-Wiwa, and 4 others honored posthumously for their activism. President Tinubu also pardoned former lawmaker Farouk Lawan and several inmates serving long-term sentences, while 7 death row convicts had their penalties commuted to life imprisonment. Acting on recommendations from the Presidential Advisory Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy, the move aims to promote justice, rehabilitation, and national reconciliation. Following updates on Yahaya Bello's case, the Federal Capital Territory High Court in the Maitama has adjourned the 110.4 billion fraud trial of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello to November 12 and 13, 2025, after the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, presented its 6th prosecution witness. During hearing, Polaris Bank Compliance Officer Mrs. Victoria Oluwafemi detailed suspicious transfers linked to the multiple accounts, including repeated 10 million naira transactions. The court admitted the 218-page bank statement as evidence, despite defense objections. Earlier, witnesses from UBA and EcoBank testified to massive cash withdrawals and deposits traced to Kogi government accounts, describing a pattern of diversion running into billions. Mr. Bello and 2 others, Omar Oricha and Abdul Salami Hudu, face 16 counts of money laundering and criminal breach of trust. In business, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has reaffirmed its drive to deepen financial inclusion through the promotion of alternative payment systems during its sensitization fair in Calabar on Thursday. Speaking at an event themed promoting alternative payment channels for growth and economic development, the Assistant Director of Corporate Communications, Mr. Uche Tobias, said the Olayemi Cardoso-led management is committed to expanding digital access, stabilizing the economy, and reducing inflation. He highlighted key reforms such as exchange rate unification, the Nigeria Payment System Vision 2028 and the B-March Forex Trading System, describing them as vital steps toward a more inclusive financial ecosystem. Still in business, Chief Executive Officer CEOs across the southeast of Nigeria are brainstorming at the 4th edition of the Amadio Business Summit. The summit, which has its theme as thriving in times like these, provided an opportunity for participants to share business challenges and solutions. Chidemai Kemede was there for Aneke TV.
Amadio hosted an exceptional business summit, a special edition masterclass for CEOs at the Amadio Event Center in Enugu, Nigeria. Widely regarded as the best of its kind, the summit was designed to empower Southeast business owners with strategies to build compelling brands, attract more customers, and boost profits. The keynote speaker, Dr. Emeria Agonwa, described business as a battlefield. It was the president of the Dangote Group, Mr. Aliko Dangote, who asserted, in every crisis, there is an opportunity waiting to be discovered. The Amadio Event Center was filled with energy and ideas as leading minds from across sectors gathered for the 4th edition of the Amadio Business Summit, themed Thriving in Times Like These. Delivering the keynote address, Dr. Ike, CEO of AfriInvest West Africa, noted that the summit came at a defining moment for Nigeria. He traced current economic challenges back to the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic, emphasizing the need for resilience and innovation during reform-heavy times.
Can imagine $16 trillion across the world to survive the impact of COVID-19. Call to action. Ladies and gentlemen, the world after COVID is more volatile. Nigeria is undergoing bold reforms. Aneke is demonstrating subnational transformation through vision and execution.
During a thought-provoking session moderated by Barrister Richard Ago, Enugu State's Commissioner for Trade and Investment, Dr. Sam Ubu reflected on his journey from organizing the Oganiru Investment Summit in 2016 to his current role under Governor Peter Mbah's administration. He praised the governor's forward-thinking leadership and encouragement to design bold, practical policies.
I recall in 2016, there was a move within the State Economic Advisory Committee to see how we can diversify, how we can achieve. And I had the privilege of being the commissioner, almost the same ministry, the commissioner for Commerce and Industry as it was called, and working with him and a few other colleagues, and also the Economic Council. We hosted perhaps still the most remarkable and I hope impactful investment summit, which we called Oganiru Investment Summit of 2016.
Dr. Emeria Agonwa addressed pressing national issues and urged business leaders to embrace innovation as a tool for navigating uncertainty. We must learn to solve our problems with the tools we have, he said, pointing out that even in crisis, opportunities abound.
And the thought here is that our thought is not about paying attention to the tools. Our thought should be how do we become resourceful as individuals so that we can create more opportunities that technology would amplify. And I speak to this for the future of business, and I always say that Nigeria is at that point where, and not just Nigeria, Africa, at the point where we could lay claim to the future like every other person. Because the world is trying to figure out what the future looks like at this point. We have mastered directions of the past. So my thought here is that as much as we talk about technology, the real value of technology is what it amplifies. And we must pay attention to the quality of our thoughts, quality of our conversation, quality of the questions we ask, quality of the solution we bring to the table, then put it through the tools of technology and let it amplify our solutions to the global market.
Representing Governor Peter Mbah, the Secretary to the State Government, Professor Chidebere Onya, reiterated the administration's bold economic target of increasing Enugu's GDP from $4.4 billion to $30 billion and called on private sector players to collaborate in achieving that vision.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and fellow stakeholders, It is an immense honor and privilege to stand before you today at the Amadeo Business Summit 4.0, a global event designed to address the evolving dynamics of service delivery in today's complex socio-economic landscape. I bring you warm greetings from His Excellency, Dr. Peter Ndubuisimba, the Executive Governor of Enugu State, who has entrusted me with the responsibility of delivering this address on his behalf. The theme of this summit, Thriving in Times Like This, resonates profoundly with the transformative journey we have undertaken in Enugu State under Governor Peter Ndubuisimba's visionary leadership. It's one of the bold economic ambitions that was declared as a subnational to grow Enugu's economy from $4.4 billion to $30 billion by the year 2030. As the governor often says, we don't passively wish for investment to happen. We get quite engaged in the process.
Among the notable guests were Professor Chinedu Nebo, former Minister of Power, Dr. Ugochime, Dr. Aneke, Dr. Femi Adewule, and Sir Robert Nwato. The highlight of the event was the induction of distinguished personalities into the Amadeo Hall of Fame, captured in a symbolic group photograph. Chidimi Kemede, Aneke.
Thank you, Chidimai Kemede, for that report, and we head over to the world of sports. Algeria has become the fourth African nation to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup after a dominant 3-0 win over Somalia on Thursday. Mohamed Amoura struck twice, taking his tally to 8 goals in the qualifiers, while captain Riyad Mahrez added another to secure Algeria's 5th World Cup appearance and first since 2014. Although listed as Somalia's home game, the match was held in Oran, Algeria, giving fans the chance to celebrate qualification on home soil. Elsewhere, Uganda boosted their playoff hopes with a 1-0 win over Botswana, while Guinea edged Mozambique 2-1 thanks to tennis striker Abdul Karim's brace. Still in sports, Super Eagles head coach Eric Chelle has urged his players to bring a full intensity and aggression as they face Lesotho today in a must-win 2026 World Cup qualifier at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium, Polokwane. A draw or defeat would virtually end Nigeria's chances of reaching next year's tournament. Speaking at a news conference, Chelle stressed the need for focus from the first whistle, noting that football is unpredictable due to factors like weather, refereeing decisions, and player mistakes. The Super Eagles have opened camp in South Africa with key players including Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman, Alex Iwobi, and Wilfred Ndidi expected to feature as they fight to keep their World Cup hopes alive. We head to the world of entertainment. A U.S. federal judge has dismissed Drake's defamation lawsuit against Universal Music Group, ruling that Kendrick Lamar's diss track Not Like Us is protected artistic expression. Drake had accused UMG of defamation and deceptive marketing, claiming the label promoted a song that falsely branded him a certified pedophile. But Judge Janet Vargas ruled that the lyrics were hyperbolic, a part of a rap battle, not factual claims. Still in entertainment, award-winning gospel singer Tim Godfrey has revealed why he rarely performs in Nigeria, citing poor treatment of gospel artists. In a viral video, Godfrey recalled being paid with a tuber of yam and a chicken after a performance, describing it as a reflection of how little value is placed on gospel musicians in the country. His revelation came in response to social media backlash against gospel artists who charge fees for church or faith-based events. Godfrey argued that professionalism and fair compensation should not be seen as unspiritual. And that's all we have for you on Round the Globe. But to end Round the Globe, here are the main points. Israel's government has approved an agreement brokered by the United States that paved the way for a ceasefire in the Gaza war and the return of all remaining hostages held by Hamas. At least 17 people have died in Senegal's worst Rift Valley fever outbreak in decades. We also told you that the National Council of State has approved President Bola Tinubu's request for the granting of prerogative of mercy to 175 inmates across the country. To end the news, for breaking news and eyewitness reports, please call 0703-043-7110, or you can send a message across all our social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and right here on YouTube, all at Aneke TV. I am Amaka Nnichi. Thank you for joining us.
The red cap is a powerful symbol of authority, tradition, and chieftaincy. It signifies leadership, cultural identity, and a connection to the ancestors. The red cap is primarily worn by men who hold traditional titles such as Nze, Ozo, Ichie, Chief, Onyish. The number of eagle feathers on the cap can denote the wearer's status within the chieftaincy system. The red cap comes in different shapes, and each shape represents a particular hierarchy in the traditional institution in Igbo land.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, O42. And a beautiful morning to everyone watching today. You're tuned into Sunrise on Aneke TV. Your cheerful start to the day. Your trusted friend, I'm Deborah Wakoba, coming to you live from our Boston studio here in Enugu.
Good morning, our global audience, and I'm Uche Osai. Wherever you are, at home, in your office, or in traffic, thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful Friday morning. As always, we're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
Yes, and it's Friday, October 10, 2025. So welcome to another day, another bright and new edition of Sunrise. So this morning we have everything you need, from the latest newspaper headlines to the weather for today, and our quote of for today also. Anything you need served hot.
So, relax, sip your tea or coffee, enjoy the cruise, because the sunrise is here.
Yes, and here on Sunrise this morning, we'll be kicking things off with our quote of the day, a spark of light, or words that are inspiring to help you get through the day.
Right after that, we'll give you today's stories from newspaper headlines. All the key updates you need will be served hot and tasty.
Yes, and we've also got you your weather report for today to keep you comfortable before stepping out.
And later, we'll take you through today's celebrations or observance to lift your spirit.
Now, moving over to our quote of the day. Our quote of the day today is coming from Stephen Covey. And in his quote, he says, "What you do has far greater impact than what you say." I'll take that again. Our quote of today is coming from Stephen Covey. And in his quote, he says, "What you do has far greater impact than what you say." And this quote by Stephen Covey emphasizes the power of actions over words. And Covey, who is a renowned leadership expert and author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in 1989. And he believes that true character and influence are demonstrated through consistent behavior and not more promises or statements. So like this quote is reminding me of the statement that says, "Lead by example." And his quote also means his quote also teaches about actions reveal truth values. And people can say many inspiring things, but it is their behavior that shows who they really are. For instance, saying "I care about others" means little unless shown through acts of kindness and empathy. It also teaches about integrity, which builds trust. And trust is earned not by what one claims, but by what one does. Actions that match words build credibility and respect. So this quote also teaches about consistency, and the impact of consistent positive action often lasts longer and influences others more deeply than temporary verbal expressions. So, Mr. Uche, I would like to know your thoughts on this quote that says, "What you do has greater impact than what you say."
What you do has far greater impact than what you say. Debbie, this is so straightforward, and I love Stevie Covey for that. He's always a straightforward speaker, hitting the nail on the head, talking about what you do having far greater impact. You know, you look at it from this way. Well, there's what they say, that words are cheap, right? So it's rather that you be a person of action than a person of much more, plenty or many words. Yes. And again, when you listen to speakers or to advisors, they will tell you that action speaks louder than words. So it's quite important that you be a person of action, like you've just mentioned. Lead by example, not just lead in words. And unfortunately, we're in a time where we have lots and lots of critics than people who would rather take initiative, lead by example, show initiative, show action, show workings. And in this time, few people show workings, but people show a lot of criticism, a lot of words. So rather than just be an armchair critic, show leadership by example. What do you do? So one of the ways I learned as a teacher, when you have to handle let's say the younger ones, or there are people that are slow in learning. One of the things you do sometimes is to be able to show by example.
Yeah.
Rather than keep talking and talking, you bring out this child and show that child what you meant. That's leading by example. And you discover that it's easier to effect change by action than too much too much talk
like
than
empty promises. It's called empty promises.
okay. So you just show workings. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And Debbie, yes, a lot of results are achieved. Watch leaders who have left their prints in the sands of time. They are men of action, men of few words. They are men who has led with example. So wherever you are, is he in office? Show that you can do that.
Yeah.
Show leadership by example. Show that, yes, I can do this. Not just to critique. You critique without bringing anything to the table. Why criticizing? Show that you can do this better. Show initiative. Show the person the way to do that and achieve better results. And I think that's what Steve Covey here is trying to tell us. That leadership shouldn't be based on, you speak. This morning, I want everybody to resume by 7 o'clock. Why you come to work by 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Show example. Be here by 6:30. Without speaking, every person will join you.
Yes.
In fact, I remember that there was a place that their boss resumes before every other person. By the time you come, you see him by the door, standing, welcoming you. He wouldn't even complain that you're late or nothing. He did that for like a week. The second week, everybody had to sit up because they began to record lateness to work. By the time people get to office and put in some shift, you see that it's break time. Then they will go on break. Before they come back from break, they have consumed another working period, the company's time. And they close it. Tomorrow they repeat the cycle.
Same thing, yeah.
This manager, what he did was come very early, stand by the door, welcome you very well. How was your night? You're welcome. He welcomes you in. So that way, you now observe that it's nobody that will tell you that, man, you're late to work. Your manager is here before you. So you begin to speak to yourself because somebody has shown example, somebody has shown initiative. And then I was told that by subsequent week, there was auto correction. Everybody went to auto default and start coming before the yes. Everyone was not struggling to be in the office before the man. And this is the way to show leadership. Debbie, then you complaining that this person is not doing this right, he's not setting the format of the, let's say, the phone right and all that. What do? Show this individual how to set the format. And you see the person do better. This is what, for me, I would call in workplace, rather than criticize, bring positive change, positive competition by showing leadership, showing how to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, and also what this quote by Stephen Covey is teaching us is that through leadership, a leader who models honesty and diligence inspires others more effectively than one who just talks about it. So now trying to make people follow your lead is also you acting according to the way you want them to follow. Just using parents for an instance, when it comes to parents and children. Now, you want your children to have this certain behavior, but instead of telling them what you want them to do, why don't you show them what you want to do? I think people rather gain knowledge. Okay, or let's say in school, bringing it to school, for example. Now, you're a teacher, you teach, you just talk. I bet you the student don't understand until you show them what you're saying. That's why we have theories and practical. Now, living by practical, it's a way you can actually show them what you want and what you're even talking about. And I believe they learn faster, and children pick up that trait the parents want from them rather than just talking. At least it makes them understand it more. Okay, now in essence, what Stephen Covey's quote is reminding us that your action speaks louder and it lasts longer and inspires deeper change than your words ever could. Okay, and please remember that each sunrise is an opportunity for us to try something new and something different.
Okay, yeah, Debbie, you've just summed this very well. You know what you just, this part that you just rephrased now makes me remember while we were in the secondary school that year, we had a principal who would put on same school uniform.
Okay.
Stuck the shirt in and would walk among the students without our knowing. Even if it's when we were doing labor, you know, manual labor, you will see him on school uniform and all that, join us to either do the manual labor, and he was showing by example.
Yeah.
You see the way he dressed, and you're forced to know that, you have to be neatly dressed, you have to appear properly and all that, because he is showing by an example. This is somebody that is not supposed to wear the uniform, but he's on uniform, showing you this is the way you ought to appear. And everybody, you have to copy. So if by chance you're not dressing properly, then something is wrong. And you will see that when you're being disciplined, it's not because somebody has not shown you the way, but because either you're recalcitrant or you're hard in learning.
All right, thank you very much for that. And please let us know what this quote means to you. You can tag us at Aneke TV across Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, and we'll be right back after the break.
Hello, I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimi Kemede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
You're still watching Sunrise on Aneke TV. Stay tuned as we take a look at the weather reports across major cities in the southeast today.
Yes, and we're beginning with Oka. Oka expects a mix of clouds and rain. Showers likely in the morning. Some rain midday, then cloudy conditions later. Temps will range from 21 to 28 degrees Celsius.
And over to Enugu. Enugu partly cloudy overnight, turning to rain in the morning and through parts of the afternoon. Highs in the upper 20 to low 30 degrees Celsius.
And in Abakaliki, rain and showers in the early hours, then mostly cloudy through the day. Peak temperature around 30 degrees Celsius.
And over to the jiving city of Owerri. Morning rain is likely, with intermittent showers into the afternoon. Temperatures will hover between 22 to 30 degrees Celsius.
And lastly, in Umahia, thunderstorms possibly early, rain and clouds dominating much of the day. Highs would be near 29 to 30 degrees Celsius.
So, wherever you are in the southeast today, stay safe, stay comfortable, remain dry, but do not forget to keep your umbrella handy. Rain or shine, we've got you covered. And this is your weather report on Sunrise on Aneke TV. We'll go on a short break and we'll be back shortly.
Hello, I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimi Kemede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
You're still watching Sunrise on Aneke TV. Now let's see what's making front page news today in The Nation, Punch, Vanguard and The Guardian newspaper. Now on The Nation headlines, we have Amu Pitan's nomination as INEC chairman gets support. And on the Punch headlines, we have Amu Pitan faces tough test as new INEC chair. And the Vanguard headline, we have accommodation crisis hits varsity students, parents wails. Now on the Guardian headlines, 85% unreached as Nigerian buckles under massive care gap. And now today we'll be beginning our paper for today with a Nation headline that says Amu Pitan's nomination as INEC chairman gets support. Reactions continue to trail the nomination of Amu Pitan as the new INEC chairman. According to reports, several political stakeholders and civil society groups have expressed confidence in his capability to drive electoral transparency and reforms ahead of the 2027 general election. Supporters say his track record as public service speaks for itself. And Mr. Ocha, I would like to know your take on this headline that says Amu Pitan's nomination as INEC chairman gets support.
Yeah, Debbie, I did tell you yesterday that definitely it would get the required support from Council of State.
Yeah.
That is usually advisory, and in most cases you see them coming out to endorse the choice of Mr. President. So it's not unexpected that the councillor, who are the members of Council of State? These are the questions you ask. Yeah. A great number of them belong to the same party with the president. A great number of them will not dispute anything coming from Mr. President. That's the reality on ground. Yeah. And if you go back in time, let's look at 1999 to date. Okay. From Obasanjo through Yaradua, from Yaradua to Jonathan, you understand? Yeah. To Jonathan. Was there a time that you've seen the Council of State reject a nominee from Mr. President? It has never happened. It never happened during the Obasanjo era. It never happened during Yaradua. It didn't happen during Goodluck Jonathan. What we witnessed, slight different, was during the Buhari administration, when Buhari tried to nominate a relative into that position who, though an INEC commissioner, wasn't the most senior person or the senior commissioner in INEC as at that time, right? So the nation, everyone kicked against that, and luckily, the presidency heeded, and then another person was nominated in his stead. Right? So that was the only time we've seen that an intended person didn't go ahead to occupy that very position. But I can categorically tell you, Debbie, that no person has ever rejected a nominee from the president at the Council of State whenever they meet. So I heard the governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodimma, giving us brief from the outcome of the meeting of State Council. Yeah. You understand? So it's not unexpected. Yes, they did mention, yes, naturally this will sell through. What remains to be seen now is that the National Assembly, the Senate that has sang on your mandate will stand. Can they be the ones to oppose the nomination from the president? We are going to witness a bow and go, which is the usual. Or perhaps we may expect that the new INEC chairman, Amu Pitan, will be asked to sing on your mandate at the floor of the Senate. Yeah. So, Debbie, I am not surprised, and I do not think there is any Nigerian living in APC or in opposition who is aware, cognitively aware of the happenings in Nigeria, who will be surprised that the Council of State has approved a nominee of Mr. President. Yeah. Yes, I am not trying in this regard to question the nomination, no. But the emphasis here is that we expect that to sell through, and indeed it has sold through, as is the norm in our climb. Okay. So constitutionally, the Council of State is advisory, and they've done their bit. It's left to be seen if he will sell through at the clearing level at the Senate. But I can tell you categorically that Amu Pitan is already 95 to 98%. INEC chairman. Yes, I do not see any alteration. I did not see anything standing in the way of this nomination, being that he has said true already. Yes, and I did mention that the senator or the Senate House is now standing on your mandate, and it will be seen as part of fulfilling that mandate by endorsing this nominee of Mr. President.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now moving over to our second headline from the Punch headline that says, Amir Pitan faces tough test as new INEC chair. While support is growing, it's not all rosy for the incoming INEC boss. The Punch highlights the challenges awaiting Amir Pitan from tackling electoral malpractice to restoring public trust in the commission. Analysts say his success will depend on how well he manages political pressure and strengthen the electoral process.
The National Council of State met this afternoon, were consulted, and took far-reaching decisions on behalf of the country, with Mr. President presiding. Among the prominent decisions taken today is the appointment of the chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission, which constitutionally is the duty of Mr. President in consultation with National Council of State. So in keeping with that statutory provisions, Mr. President today recommended to Council of State Professor Joash O. Amopitan. Joash is a professor of law, as a matter of fact, also a professor of evidence. He's a highly respected scholar with impeccable credentials. And on the presentation of his name, Council unanimously approved and consented to the recommendation for his appointment. Speaker after speaker spoke glowingly of this professor as a very serious-minded scholar, a man of high integrity, and a tested and trusted hand who has never participated in any partisan politics. So the appointment was confirmed by National Council of State, and it is the duty of this committee to brief you, the media, and that is why we are here. So I'll hand over to the governor of Kaduna State to speak to you.
All right. You could see that clip from Senator Hope Uzodinma, the governor of Imo State, giving credence to that support that the nomination of Mr. President that the Nation newspaper talked about has gathered from State Council. And like I did mention, the State Council would naturally support the nomination of Mr. President. And in supporting the nomination of Mr. President, I want to ask, is there a counter nomination, or was that just the only name? In this case, you have just one name, and what is expected of you when you have a name for approval? It means that it's just for you to rubber stamp. There's no consideration of another name. If there were another name mentioned or being considered, then we would expect the Council of State to pander towards a different person. But in this case, they have just one option, one duty to uphold the nomination of Mr. President. And then looking at the Punch headline has been heralded by Debbie. The Punch headline here says, Amupitan faces tough test as new INEC chair. Now, you've heard the governor tell you about the credentials of Professor Amupitan, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria and is from Ayetorobede in Ijumu local government area of Kogi State, North Central. And this nominee whom we've been told is a very credible individual, specializes in law of evidence in that specialty as part of the law that he practices. He is currently the Vice Chancellor of University of Jos, admin, VC administration, Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, admin in that university, and equally a pro-chancellor of Babalola University. He is an experienced individual when it comes to administration and has authored several books and papers at conferences. He is well exposed. But according to the publication or being transmitted by the office of Mr. President, they say that this appointment is hinged on the fact that Amupitan is apolitical, that he has never taken a political stance, and he is a man of integrity and has impeccable record of service. Then, on the words of our president, this powerful words has been put forward by the presidency, then one will begin to say that at the end of the day, we'll have a credible individual. But looking at the headline from the Punch newspaper, Amupitan faces tough test as new Aneke chairman. Now, what is Punch pointing our attention to? There are whole myriads of issues that this new gentleman, this new chairman, would have to confront as the chairman of INEC. And what are these issues? You talk about public confidence, you talk about public trust, you talk about loyalty to Nigerians, loyalty to the constitution, we'll talk about electoral reforms and a whole lot of issues. And these are the challenges, the test that this Professor Amupitan has to live up to, given the fact that over the years, let's say from 2023 election, there's a lot of mistrust when it comes to election in Nigeria as at present. There's a lot of lack of confidence that you've seen from the result released by INEC about the ongoing registration exercise. The turnout is low compared to what was witnessed during the build-up to the 2023 election. So one will begin to see that, yes, there are a whole lot of challenges, tough challenges before Professor Amupitan that he has to live up to. One of them is engendering public confidence. Why is public confidence very, very important when it has to do with taking this position that Amupitan has been appointed into, if he indeed at the end of the day is cleared by the Senate, which we know naturally will sail through. But what is the case? Like I did mention, under Mahmoud Yakub, there has been crisis of confidence. The Nigerian masses, when you travel through Maiduguri through Kafanchan, down to Kogi State, to Osun Ekiti, go to Edo State, go to Bayelsa, through Abia State, to Enugu, go around the federation, you will see, when you interview Nigerians, you will see that there is little or no confidence on the ability of INEC to conduct fair elections. And today, we are at the process of seeing the change of baton from Mahmoud Yakub to Professor Josh Amupitan, who have been told that he's a man of integrity. So the nation will be looking up to him to do whatever he has to do to see that confidence is restored. Part of those challenges that he would have to confront or live up to is the test of loyalty to the Constitution and the Nigerian people. Why do we say loyalty to the Nigerian citizens and the Constitution? Know that he's been appointed by a sitting president who himself will be a candidate in 2027 election. Now, will it be a case of he who pays the piper will dictate the tune? So this is where the issue of loyalty to the Nigerian Constitution and to the Nigerian citizen comes up. It still remains to be seen if he is appointed, if he will be able to live up to this. Now, let me take our mind to the fact that there are certain groups who are beginning to look at this appointment to be that of the usual Mr. President appointing his ethnic kids into positions in this nation. Some have come out to say, okay, we are told that he's from North Central, but he is from the Yoruba-speaking stock of Kogi State. That this, again, is a disguised appointment of a Yoruba individual into position of authority. But like we always say, the focus and emphasis in Nigeria at this point in time shouldn't be ethnicity, but seeing that the right person, the right individual occupies the right position. And is Professor Amopitan qualified to occupy this position? The answer is yes, based on the record that we've seen, being that he has risen to the apex of his career, being a senior advocate of Nigeria and a professor of law, and most importantly specializing in the law of evidence with several publications, rising to be a pro-chancellor of a university and a deputy vice chancellor of a university. So I feel he is eminently qualified. But another thing that we'll talk about is he being able to surmount the test that he is facing of trying to see that he is not loyal to the president that has appointed him, but to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria, by seeing to it that when he chairs Aneke, that whatever decision that will be taken will be derived from the Constitution. Talking about the tough test that Amopitan will face as the new INEC chairman. Remember that currently, that when you travel from Abuja through Bayelsa, all looks and cranny of Nigeria, what is at the front burner when INEC is mentioned and election is in perspective, it has to do with electoral reform. And now the attention will be shifted to Professor Amopitan to see to it that these electoral reforms don't just become rhetorics, but to see to it that they are carried out in the interest of Nigeria. What are these electoral reforms? Part of it is this appointment that we are looking at as of today. There are a whole lot of us who are of the school of thought that the president of Nigeria shouldn't be the one appointing the chairman of INEC, being that INEC is an independent body that handles sensitive issues that has to do with electioneering, and the president himself is a candidate in a forthcoming election, so he shouldn't be the one to appoint. Rather, reform should see to it that will have a mechanism that will see that an INEC chairman gets appointed through a means that is very fair, very clear, and unambiguous, to see that a person of character and integrity is appointed, devoid of any political leaning. We are looking, now that we've been told that Professor Amopitan is apolitical, let's hope and that indeed he lives up to this toga of being apolitical, that he is not affiliated in any way to any political leaning or sentiment. Then, now that we've talked about electoral reform and all that, another important aspect where there is challenge, where INEC so far has failed, is being able to adhere to the rule of law. Over years, we keep complaining that INEC doesn't play by the rules, that they don't obey the rule of law. But granted, one thing that we must give to this outgoing chairman, Mahmood Yakub, is that whenever you encounter him, whatever he does, he will try to cite the Constitution. He will always refer you to the Constitution as a guiding principle. And we hope that this incoming INEC chairman, Professor Amopitan, will be able to live up to that tenets by adhering to the rule of law. Let the rule of law be the watchword, the guideline for INEC under his leadership. So these are the issues that I believe the Punch is talking about when they talk about him facing tough challenges, tough tests as new INEC chairman. Then there's another whole issue that will be at the front burner. That is the issue of transparency. The accusation over time, let's take it just from 1999, let's not go beyond that. Since a return to democracy is being a lingering albatross on INEC when it has to do with transparency. And now it behoves on Professor Joash Amopitan to see to it that transparency is returned in every dealings of INEC, from voter registration to the proper voting exercise. When elections come, let it be that INEC are transparent in their dealings. Let them be transparent in the way they deal with Party A and the way they deal with Party B. Let it not be seen that INEC takes sides. Let them give us a clear roadmap to an election, and they should be able to live up to that roadmap and obey their own law. Over time, INEC has been accused of shifting the goalposts in the middle of the match, either to favor Party A or Party B. So now, the onus lies on Professor Mupiton to see to it that transparency heralds whatever INEC is involved in. No matter how many. Talk about the by-elections, off-season election cycles, registration, whatever have you. Even in party registration and all the rest, let it be known and be seen by all to be transparent. Over time, our elections have been decided by the court instead of the generality of the citizens of Nigeria. Let us not, under his watch, have a situation where we'll be told after election that you should go to the court. We shouldn't be going to the court. The process should be transparent, acceptable by all parties, to be transparent, to have obeyed the roadmap, the rules set aside for that election, and such. We'll be able to reduce the number of litigations that we have on our elections. When you take the economic side of litigations on election, you will see that a lot of resources is expanded. The resources of this nation that we cry about that is not enough is being expanded on litigation on electoral matters. And we hope that Professor Mupitan, being a senior advocate of Nigeria, will see to it that INEC at this juncture is not only seen to be transparent, but should be above board and follow the rule of law, obeying our constitution, knowing that they do not serve President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the ruling All Progressive Congress. Rather, that he is there to serve the interest of Nigerians according to the dictates of our constitution. So, while we wait for the legislature to put their rubber stamp on this nomination, then, for me, it's worthy of celebration that at least we have a young man in Professor Mupitan, who is just 58 years of age, going to man INEC, who is quite knowledgeable in law, and we hope that he will steer the INEC and Nigeria through an electoral process that is transparent, that we will be proud of, that other nations of the world, if not just Africa, will be able to emulate. They will come to Nigeria to learn how he has done it. It's an opportunity for him to write his name in gold. It's an opportunity for him to distinguish himself, carve a niche for himself, be different from other chairman, that at the end of the day, we will remember him as that chairman that brought sanity in our electoral process.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Oche. And now we'll be moving over to our next paper for the day, coming from the Vanguard headline that says, accommodation crisis hits varsities, students, parents wail. Across Nigerian universities, accommodation challenges are worsening as the new academic session begins, and students are forced to share cramped hostels or seek off-campus housing at skyrocketing prices. Parents are lamenting the situation, calling on government and school authorities to provide lasting solutions to the student housing shortage. Mr. Auchi, I would like to know your take on this.
You see, that headline that we have there, that's on the Vanguard, right?
Yes, Vanguard.
This headline sums the problem with Nigeria. Because each time when I see our varsities, anything that has to do with our higher institution, I try to look at whatever happenings there from the perspective of a microcosm Nigeria. And I can basically tell you that you see this headline, you can interpret it with everything that is wrong with Nigeria. Now, why are we having accommodation crisis in our institution? Without first of all looking at the issues that makes it a challenge for us in our varsities to have veritable accommodation for our undergraduates and students, I'll begin to tell you that it is the same issue with Nigeria in general. What is the planning? I can categorically tell that this is lack of planning in our institutions that will give rise to this issue. And Debbie, without wanting to, repeat myself, but I am at this point in time forced to go that line again. We are in a nation with leaders who have enjoyed the very best of this nation.
Yeah.
I do not know of anyone from the presidency to the state level who amongst our present crop of leaders who have not enjoyed the best of Nigeria. These are men and women who attended universities in Nigeria when the state catered for them.
Yeah.
They paid little or nothing to acquire the best of education. They went to school when you are either one person in a room or two persons in a room. They enjoy the best of Nigeria. They went to the university at a point where they had a meal ticket, where on Sundays they enjoyed either full or half chicken. The government of Nigeria at that time not only built institutions, but they built institutions that were comparable with any other varsity in the world. And then what are we having today? We got to a point where it now becomes a crisis, because this is a national crisis and is making headline in Nigeria. Is a failure of leadership. Not just leadership at the political level, but the leadership at the university levels as well. Because I know that these institutions have a vice chancellor, deputy vice chancellor, and you have a senate comprising of senior lecturers and all that. And why are we having this issue? Now, we are in a nation where our population is increasing, and with the increment in population, you begin to see that the number of students who are in quest to acquire education will definitely increase. What do? You have to plan with that in mind when you're giving admission. Yeah. Why do you give admission? You give admission, let's say every year, you take in, let's say about 10,000 students when you have no accommodation for those students. There's no provision. Yes, I understand that all the students doesn't have to live in campus, but at least provide basic accommodation for at least 80% of that. Are we doing that? When you go run our universities in Nigeria, Debbie, I can categorically tell you that the decay you will see would marvel you.
Yeah, that's true.
I attended university in Nigeria when we have people that will come and beg us to sweep our room. They swept our rooms for us. And the first demonstration I witnessed and got involved in as an undergraduate was the university trying to introduce double bunk in the university. And we didn't know what was double bunk in the university. It was unheard of. And we will have to go protest to the school authority that this is no secondary school and this is no prison. That they shouldn't introduce double bunk. And today, if someone is woken to come and say that they that protested for double bunk in that year doesn't have even an accommodation space for the students today, the person will begin to marvel. And I begin to ask myself, is it the same system? When we protested, the school authorities listened and the right thing was done. And today, it cannot be said to be same. Now, students are left at the mercy of greedy landlords and investors. When you go through our institution, you will see the case of hostel, the case that they call hostel. Is that what Nigeria is bequeathing to the leaders of tomorrow? When you even see the little accommodation that is provided, you will see that they are overcrowded and in poor hygienic condition. These are the leaders of tomorrow that we're bringing out. Then tomorrow we'll have the governor or a senior president who doesn't know what hygiene is, or who is very poor when it comes to hygiene. Are these the leaders that we're trumping up for tomorrow? So at the end of the day, the buck stops with our government. The buck stops with the leadership of the institutions. Then going forward, who are the stakeholders here? I do not exonerate the students themselves, because we have a student body. What are they doing now? They are involving themselves in petty politics. Talking and following politicians about, talking of nuns that are supposed to represent the interest of the Nigerian students, who I know they pay student levies and dues. What they do is go about blowing trumpets for politicians That's what NANS is involved in. That's the level they've degenerated to. Why won't we see the case in the institutions when students that are supposed to be in campus learning are the ones doing PR for politicians in the name of getting peanuts from our politicians? So you see the case like this, and then talk about parents. There's nobody that is not involved in all this. Yes, parents too are not exonerated from this. Then, let's look at it. When the institutions have failed to provide accommodation, what do you have? You now have greedy investors trying to take charge. And what do you have? You see high cost of accommodation around university institution. Every university environment that you go to. Yes, you see high cost of accommodation. There are places where you travel through Lagos, for example, you will see a student hostel, what they call self-contained, that is not going to be contain one person. And you see people have been asked to pay up to the tune of 750 to 950,000. Bring it down to our studio here where we are in Enugu. Get down to my alma mater, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Go and ask the landlord, go and look for an accommodation there. You will see the high cost of accommodation that a student is meant to pay just to acquire knowledge. And where would parents who are suffering under this economy that will be crying loud about, where do they get that money from? You give admission to a whole number of students that at the end of the day, they will be left with nowhere to stay. They will be left at the mercy of greedy landlords and agents. So students go through Kaduna. There's no exception. Nowhere in this nation that the story is not the same. Go around the whole campuses in this country. What the shack we are running as institution that is as good as the prison yards. That's what our hostel accommodations are like. Some prison yards are neater than our hostels when you see the level of decay there. So, and in this instance, I don't even know, when you interrogate further, you hear them tell you that there's a restriction on using government finances for construction of these fiscal buildings and all that. Then, if that's the case, what alternative did the government provide? This institution, are they allowed to go into private partnership to see to it that buildings are erected? And when they're erected, is there anybody there to regulate the cost of this? I can categorically tell you that Nigeria has been fair. Those of us who thought that Nigeria was not fair to us, Nigeria was indeed fair to us. Because by the time I left university, when I did live in the hostel, I paid less than 14,000 naira school fees with accommodation. And in this nation, somebody is paying over 100,000 for an accommodation alone. I'm not talking about accommodation off campus. In some of our campuses, they pay up to this amount. Now, admission list will be released, and you're not even sure accommodation you have an accommodation. And then students are left to go and suffer. And then we'll now begin to talk about the criminalities that is in all around our campuses. Why won't criminality be on the increase? When you leave your students without anywhere to stay, without leaving them on the street, why wouldn't there be high rates of criminality, cultism, and all that? Why wouldn't the female students go into, what's the name for prostitution now? Hookup and all that. Why wouldn't they go into all sorts of criminalities and crime? We are preparing them for that because we've not provided an alternative. These children will have to look for a way to survive. They are smart. We are in the Gen Z generation are very smart. Whatever situation, they will find a way to survive around it. That why won't the Yahoo be on the increase when a student has to pay up to the tune of 400 and 500,000 for just a room
that doesn't have water in it?
Okay. And then do you expect them to go back to the suffering parents at home to provide the money? So when I did tell you that this headline tells you about everything that is wrong with Nigeria, believe me, because when you look at it, you see lack of planning, you see lack of proper policy. It tells you that there's no provision, that the men and women who have enjoyed the best of Nigeria is failing to provide the best for the next generation.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now we're taking a look at an update coming from still on the Vanguard headline at the top right of the Vanguard headline that says police arrest 12 suspects behind death of Arise News anchor Somto Chukwu. And then report said that the Nigerian police force has confirmed the arrest of 12 suspects in connection with the tragic death of Arise News anchor Somto Chukwu Christella Madago, whose untimely passing sent shockwaves across the media community earlier this week. According to the police sources, the suspects were picked up following a coordinated intelligence-led operation across multiple locations, and investigations reveal that the incident, initially thought to be a case of robbery, may have involved premeditated foul play. And the police public relation officer stated that the suspects are currently in custody and undergoing intensive interrogation to determine their individual roles in the crime. And evidence gathered so far includes digital communication records, surveillance footage, and eyewitness accounts, all pointing towards a possible conspiracy. Mr. Oche, we've seen the headline, the update of today concerning police arresting about 12.
Yes, in as much as this is a very heartbreaking story for us, you know, being that this a young lady who is at her prime.
Okay.
For me, I do not think that Somto has even blossomed to whatever dream she has. You understand? And that dream had been cut short. And anyway, before I go further, I want to congratulate the Nigerian police who have swung into action and are beginning to show us working. They are beginning to show results in this regard. And one, you've captured it very vividly. But one thing that is very, very obvious here for us to mention is that when you see this 12 individual that has been captured, all of them are below 30 years of age. Yes, some 20. 23, 27, below 30 years of age. These are young children who should be somewhere chasing their dream. They are the ones that are involved into this heinous crime. You know, while looking at it, you've seen some of them. One of them confessed that he was the one that shot the gate man on that day. Then the other person confessing that he tried to hold Somto from jumping from the balcony of the 3-story building, but her weight overwhelmed him that he couldn't catch her and she has to fall. But it's quite unfortunate that our youths are getting into crime without wanting to profile anybody. The question now is, this is needless. What could have been and what could have done? In as much as it's heartbreaking, and I wouldn't want to go into much talking about it, I want to congratulate our police. I want to congratulate the Arise television for whatever role they've played to see that the police have gone ahead to do their job, and then the results we're beginning to see. So we'll pray that the rest of them, because we still know that a good number of them are still at large, that all of them are captured and are meant to face the law. Let them pay for their crime as a deterrent for others to embark on such crime. And it's even quite disheartening, Debbie, that when you listen to all of them, you ask how much did they make from this crime. Many of them were saying that they got only 200,000. 200,000 for a life that has been cut short. 200,000 for such level of heinous crime. Patry 200,000. And you took a life that would impact millions. Patry 200,000. And in as much as I don't want to exonerate these people, yes, they are adults, they have to face the law. But that tells you, what are we doing as a nation to provide alternative, to see that there will be no other Somto? What is the security level everywhere? You know, yesterday I was telling you that before the week runs out, we'll see a headline pointing and talking to security issues. And here, though I bet the fact that we are celebrating that they've been caught, we commend the police. But the emphasis here should be, let's do the needful to see that such occurrence doesn't happen again. Let there not be another Somto Madago tomorrow.
Oh, thank you very much for that. Now I'll be taking our last paper for today, coming from the Guardian headline that says 85% unreached as Nigeria boreholes on the massive care gap. And the Guardian focuses on the nation's health sector, revealing that over 85% of Nigerians remain without access to adequate health care. Experts warn that poor infrastructure, brain drain and low funding are crippling the system, urging urgent reforms to bridge the massive care gap and ensure equitable health coverage for all.
Debbie, I think this headline has to do with this today's celebration where you talk about mental health.
Yes.
And then when you look at World Mental Health Day, looking at Nigeria in this regard, you know, the story is same all over. You know, we are in a nation where what's the healthcare system like? You understand? And then looking at the mental situation, healthcare situation, we've not even provided the adequate needed comprehensive health care, you understand, for people. Then this area of specialization is quite appalling because when you look at it, the figures coming out is not encouraging, you understand, and when you look at the stories all over, they are all a pointer to one thing, that when Nigeria seems to be getting it right, or seems to take 20 steps backwards again, at times we begin to reel out the characteristics of a failed state, when we know we are still striving to be a better nation, a better country. When you look at the healthcare system in Nigeria, is very deplorable. Look at the condition of our infrastructures. Go through the villages, through the communities, through our cities. Is nothing to write home about. What do you have adequate provision in terms of medication? Is it affordable? Is it available? These are the questions. What is the condition of our healthcare practitioners? What is their situation? Remember that here we did discuss about this issue. You see that before now, we used to think that this Jampa syndrome is wholly based on the fact that people want to go and earn a better life outside Nigeria. But when you interact with our medical practitioners, you begin to realize that a lot of them are running away from the decay in the system, that the number of medical health workers that we have is not enough to cater for the population of Nigerians. And when you take a look at the statistics of what we have, how many psychiatric hospitals do we have in Nigeria? I can tell you that it's not up to 10 when you take a look at our national psychiatric hospitals across Nigeria. It may not be up to 10. And then